Rats around your chicken coops. Rats in your chicken coop are every chicken keeper's nightmare. We're looking at why rats and mice are unwelcome with your chickens, the warning signs of an infestation, and how to prevent and control them. Hi, I'm Phil from Flights of Fancy. We're revisiting Ask Phill 10 from a few years ago to look at vermin problems. Here at Flights of Fancy we are always being asked by customers, how do I stop rats and mice invading my chicken run? So let's tackle the problem head on to protect your chickens, your gardens, and most importantly your own health. Today we will cover in this Ask Phill why we don't want rats in the coop or garden, how to spot a rat infestation in your chicken run, preventing rodent infestations, and what to do if you already have rats. So here we go. So first of all, why we don't want rats in your chicken coop or garden. They are disease carriers. They carry loads of diseases, Weil's disease, salmonella, hantavirus, and they transmit this via contaminated surfaces. And it's a huge risk to you and your chicken's health. They steal food and they pollute the water, and of course as they're stealing the food and polluting the water, they are weeing and pooing in it, and so all those diseases are being transmitted so that whoever gets to the food and water are going to get it or have the opportunity to get it. They're a danger to your chickens. Rats are omnivores. They will eat anything they possibly can and some things that they can't. They will attack roosting birds, so that if they can get into the house, because your birds' perches are quite low and there's these nice little chicken toes wrapped around the perches there, if they can't get to the birds, they'll nibble the toes of your chickens. And we've seen loads and loads of pictures of chickens with badly damaged feet because rats have actually eaten their toes in the coop. It's horrid and it's something you need to avoid. And of course for young birds they're very vulnerable because some rats are bigger than them and so they'll just eat them. They are prolific breeders. They'll have between 10 and 12 broods a year, and each brood you've got a dozen babies or so, and within 6 weeks those young mice or rats are ready to breed. So you get this exponential rise in the population. But many of you may have seen the films from years ago of the plagues of rats out in Australia and this thing where it was like a sea. Well, we don't get that here, but if you get a lot of rats, you're going to get a lot of problems. They are unwelcome in your garden. Because of the diseases and the fouling that they do. They will contaminate your children's play areas. They'll kill hedgehogs. Like we said, they're carrying the diseases so they can pass the diseases onto hedgehogs and other wildlife. We all love wildlife in our garden, and rats are part of nature and they've got their place within nature, not necessarily within your garden, because you don't want a tiger in your lounge. You wouldn't have a rat in your chicken coop. It's a similar thing. They will make their homes in piles of debris, leaves, compost heaps, all this sort of thing. So you need to keep things clean and tidy for starters. Right, so the next thing is, how do you spot an infestation of rats or mice? First of all, the most obvious, look. If you're looking in your chicken run and you see a rat, I'll bet you 10 bob, that's an old word, I'll bet you a lot that there's a lot more rats very close to them. Rats are not solitary. You've never read a book called The Rat That Walked Alone. You know, they are communal animals, so if you see one, there's lots. What you need to do is look for footprints or tracks, grease trails. Rats leave a grease trail because they are greasy, nasty things. Where they go on a regular basis, you will see a greasy trail on the ground, through the grass, against the bottom of a wall, anything like this. Little footprints in the mud. If you think that maybe they might be rat prints but you don't know, just bung some flour down where the footprints were, and then have a look a day or two later and see if it's been spread along in a line, because that's where they've been walking through it and have been treading it on onto other areas, which of course is making them dirty and fouling them. Chewed surfaces. If you see your chicken house, it's got the corners of it chewed. They will chew wood, they'll chew plastic, they'll chew metal, they'll chew anything at all. Their favourites is electrical wiring actually, but you probably haven't got too much of that in your chicken coop. But rats' teeth never stop growing. They are growing from the day they're born till the day they die. So they have to keep chewing things in order to keep their teeth the right length, otherwise they'd have teeth down here like saber-toothed rats. So they will, it doesn't matter if they chew on metal and it hurts their teeth, they'll grow back, so they don't mind that. So look for the chewed surfaces. Look for droppings. Mouse droppings are like little dark grains of rice, and rat droppings are bigger, probably about 5 or 6 times bigger. They are like raisins. So you can see those. Don't forget, if there's droppings there, there's disease there. Also, it's very dependent on the time of year. As the weather gets cold at the end of the year, they'll move from the countryside towards shelter and food sources. Food being water as well, because sometimes in nature water's not easy to get hold of. They will make a nest somewhere comfortable and eat, drink and breed, make merry. And then when spring comes, you'll have all these rats suddenly come out everywhere, not so good. Right, so how do we prevent an infestation of rats or mice? First of all, cleanliness. Disinfect, sanitize and clean up any spilt food. It's most important. Even if you have got rats and mice there, if you disinfect and sanitize, then you negate any disease or whatever that they've brought with them. You need to declutter. Remove piles of rubbish and debris from your garden, certainly around where your chickens are. This is a delicate balance because we know that we need to have piles of leaves and things like this for hedgehogs to hibernate in, and little towers of whatever for the bees and other little flying insects and everything to hibernate through the winter in. So it's a delicate balance. The best you can do is make sure there's no rubbish and debris around where your chickens are. You need to secure your run. So you need to check that your wire is all intact. They are diggers and tunnelers. So unlike a fox, where a fox will scrabble at the base of some wire, if it can't get in, it'll go away again. A rat will just dig deeper and make a tunnel and come up inside, or chew its way through. So you need to check around the outside of your coop and run regularly. What you can do is, if they're tunneling into your chicken run, you can fit what's called a scratch mat, which is a plastic coated weld mesh mat that covers the whole area of the floor of the run, and is impervious to them coming up through. But if you do that, then you've got to put something like wood chip on the top of it, because the last thing you really want is your birds having to run around on wire all the time. You want them to be on a good, nice, scratchy surface for their own comfort, and you don't want any toes getting caught in wire or anything like that. So make sure there's a good covering of wood chip on top of any scratch mat. If you do need a scratch mat, then give us a ring. We can always quote to do one for the size of your run. Use rat resistant feeders. Treadle feeders are rat resistant. Anything is only rat resistant, virtually nothing is rat proof. So these are feeders where the chickens stand on the treadle, which opens the flap and exposes the food. You need the weight of a chicken to do that, and unless you get 3 or 4 rats gang together and work in a sort of communal fashion, then they're not going to trigger the opening of the flap to the feed. Occasionally you might get it if you've got a hell of a lot of rats, then they might do that, but the fact is it won't happen very much. So generally speaking, that will prevent the rodents eating your chicken food. Don't forget that you can still get food spilt around it, so that's an issue. And on these treadle feeders, where there's a mixture of plastic and metal, you can get special guards that go on the feed hopper to make sure that the rats can't chew their way through into it without opening the treadle. You can also suspend feeders from the roof or from a covered area. Put them about chickens' head height so they can peck, peck, peck in like that. And a rat generally isn't tall enough unless they do the acrobatic tower to get up and eat it. Don't forget spillage again. And then one of the best things you can do, because rats are mainly nocturnal, is remove feed sources at night. And don't forget, feed sources are food and water, because both are equally important to your rat. So we've assessed our chicken coop in our area, and we have found out that we got rats. What do we do now? So first thing, clean up. I keep saying clean up all the way through this video. If there's no food there for them, you won't have them because there'll be nothing to attract them. So make sure it's kept clean. The other very important thing you can do is make sure that your chicken house is up on legs or up on wheels, so that there's a clear sort of anything between a 4 and a 6 inch air gap between the floor and the ground, because there's nowhere for them to hide then. You see many chicken houses that sit on the ground. Well, normally speaking, by the time you've built the chicken house, a rat is moved in underneath it before the chickens even get in the house, and they're just waiting for you to feed them. So make sure that your chicken houses are raised. Now, the next thing is you need to get rid of them, as well as not make it a nice place for them. We need to talk bait boxes and bait. Now, in this country, it is the law that if you put rat bait down, it has to be within a lockable container. And these are all done to specific designs. They've got very simple little key locks on them. You unlock it and you open it up, and this is what the inside of a rat bait box looks like. And here you have posts so that you can put wax bait blocks on, and the posts restrain them so the rats can't take them away. And little troughs underneath there where you can put granular rat bait in. And again, they can't go anywhere because it's sitting in its little trough. It all comes out for cleaning. These bait stations, once you've baited them, they can be mounted, actually screwed to the wall. So you've got a secure way of making sure they don't go anywhere. You need to put them where the rats run. So we were talking about the grease trails earlier on. If you look for those, or along the bottom of the walls, or along the bottom of the sides of your chicken coop, whatever, you'll see where the rats run. Well, these holes need to go in line with where the rats run. You'll find that the rats will ignore them for 3 or 4 days, because they are very distrustful. They're careful animals. They'll ignore them for 3 or 4 days, and then they'll go in and they'll start taking the rat bait. And I appear to have lost this one already. Right, there we go. So rat bait, say, comes in blocks or grain. It's the grain is blue, the blocks are red. The blocks are the same stuff, but in a wax base. And like I say, they go on these posts. They are available in maximum 300 grams in a pouch. If any of you are really not happy about handling this sort of thing yourselves, there are plenty of commercial, what's the word I'm looking for? Pest controllers around that have licenses to be able to use much stronger rat baits than these. And so if you're at all worried and you'd rather pay someone to come around and do it for you, then look it up on your local Google and get a local pest controller to come around and do it. But if you're happy to do it yourself, so then you put your bait blocks on there, or your granular bait in there, just close it up, close it like that, it's locked. The key actually just sits underneath in there, so it's always there when you need to open it. Put it where I've just suggested, along the grease trails, and ideally put something heavy on top of it, so that it can't get blown over, so that the stuff gets spilt from it, and also it's harder for anything that isn't a rat or a mouse to access. Most of all, we don't want to go poisoning anything that isn't a rat or a mouse. So with it contained nicely in here, it's too small for hedgehogs to get in. Dogs and cats are not attracted to rat bait anyway. And what happens with the rat bait is it contains an anticoagulant, and all rodents have natural bleeding within their guts, and so what they do, they actually die of loss of blood. But they feel very poorly before that. 99% of them will go back to their little homes in the ground somewhere and will die in there. It's unlikely that anything like a cat or a dog is going to find them. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. Like us, they like to go, when they're feeling poorly, they like to go home to bed, and so that's what happens. I would wear gloves and a mask when you're handling the poison. It's not hideously toxic to us, but you always take precautions. There are other ways of controlling rats and mice. There are sonic pest repellers. They make a noise that rodents don't like, very high-pitched noise. They only really work indoors. So if you've got a barn or something like that, we've got them in the shop, they work. But to put them outdoors, A, they're electronic, and B, it doesn't work anywhere near as well. There are also things like humane rat traps, which are basically baited cages. Your rat goes in, the doors close, and you've got a rat in a cage. So then you've got to work out what to do with the rat in a cage. So you need to get in your car, drive somewhere else to the other side of the fields and let the rat out. So that can work if that appeals to you. There are electronic traps. So basically speaking, it's just like a big rat trap, but with batteries in it, and the rat goes inside and gets a powerful electric shock, which will kill the rat. Again, you need to then dispose of Mr. Ratty, which some people are very squeamish about doing, understandably. There is, of course, the standard historical rat trap. The problem with rat traps is rats are quite intelligent animals. You may catch a rat in your rat trap. Again, of course, you have to dispose of Mr. Ratty, but you're unlikely to catch another rat in that trap, because the other rats in that community will realise what's happened to the first one, and you're unlikely to catch another rat. So it's not a very efficient way of clearing an infestation of rats. That pretty much covers how you can get rid of your rats. Various people have various opinions on reducing populations of rodents and that sort of thing, because, as I said before, it's part of nature. It's the part of nature you don't really want involved with the animals that you're looking after the welfare of. And of course, as I said before, there's the welfare of children and other things with the diseases that they carry. So that's my opinion, and you make of it what you will, but this is what we would do. Keeping your chicken enclosure, chicken coop, clear of rats and mice is an ongoing process. If you get rid of some, at some point in the relatively near future, Mr. Ratty's cousin will move in, and so the whole thing needs to start all over again. So it's vigilance, it's doing all the looking at things, examining things, etc., cleaning, removing feed, and generally being vigilant and looking after your little birdies. I'll leave it to you then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.